sustainable, humane economy vision needs collaborative efforts. Journalistic code of ethics drives media to deliver true information. Well, hello, good evening and salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Malaysia Tonight and I'm Muhammad Amin Carlos. Well, now the government has urged academicians, financial institutions and regulatory bodies to work together in realizing the vision of the future and sustainable humane economy.
Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim said this collaboration must be met with an ummatic commitment with joint efforts to help realize this vision for a better future.
Academicians must continue to push the boundaries of knowledge, align the theoretical and ethical dimensions of Islamic economics, and develop practical applications aligned with these core Madani principles. Now, financial institutions, of course, must integrate these principles into core structures and decision-making process and ensure that their products are equitable and accessible.
The Premier added that regulatory bodies must also create enabling frameworks for innovation that incentivizes and reinforces ethical conduct and not mere legalistic compliance. At the same time, he said the government aims to promote a new method of civilizational development guided by the Madani economy principles. He said the Madani concept introduced by the government puts forward an economic framework based on 6 principles, namely sustainability, care and compassion, respect, innovation, prosperity and trust. Datuk Seri Anwar further emphasized that the future economy would place the people at its center, which contributes to developing a caring, compassionate society that could support comprehensive social safety nets, investing in community development and abolish poverty and inequality.
And speaking about ethics, Communications Minister Fahmi Fadil says the Malaysian Code of Ethics for Journalists is set to propel the media in Malaysia as a trusted source for providing true and accurate information about the nation.
Media berperanan amat penting sebagai mata dan telinga yang boleh dipercayai serta juga lidah yang mampu memberikan maklumat tepat dan sahih tentang keadaan semasa negara. Untuk makluman, Kod Etika Wartawan Malaysia ini adalah versi baru yang telah diteliti semula oleh Japan untuk menggantikan kod etika yang telah digunakan pakai sejak 35 tahun yang lalu.
The document outlines 8 main journalistic ethics, namely journalists are responsible for being the voice of a diverse society and serving as agents of facilitating dialogue. Journalists should be transparent and have integrity while carrying out their duties. And journalists are encouraged to consistently strive for fairness in delivering information. While also reporting should not be influenced by any personal interests. The authenticity and accuracy of information need to be verified, and journalists need to respect the privacy and confidentiality of sources. It also stated that journalists need to understand the laws, acts and policies related to the scope of their duties and prioritize continuous improvement of journalistic skills.
Well, My Digital Corporation has formalized a strategic cooperation by signing a collaboration agreement on innovation partnership with Toshiba Digital Solutions Corporation in the application of big data technology. Well, the agreement was signed by My Digital Corporation Chief Executive Officer Fabian Bigar and Toshiba Digital Solutions Corporation General Manager Naoki Yamaguchi. Well, a signing ceremony which was held at the Toshiba headquarters in Tokyo was witnessed by Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi and Toshiba Corporation President and Chief Executive Officer Taro Shimada. Now, in his speech at the signing ceremony, Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid said this collaboration will see Toshiba and My Digital working on a pilot project utilizing weather radar data to promote smart livestock management as well as smart travel and activity planning. He also made a suggestion on the non-security related open data as an untapped resource that needs to be explored to improve the communities as both nations enter an era of digitalization. While he looks forward to more organizations from both Malaysia and Japan working together in exploring open data for the benefit of both countries. And now, as I speak, Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Mohammed Hassan is currently in The Hague, Netherlands, to participate in the public hearings on the request for the International Court of Justice's or ICJ's advisory opinion on the issue of Palestine. Now, Datuk Seri Mohammed said he is leading the Malaysian delegation at the ICJ regarding the request for an advisory opinion on the legal consequences arising from the policies and practices of Israel in Palestine. Well, he said the request for the advisory opinion emanates from the United Nations General Assembly, or UNGA's Resolution 77/247, adopted on 30th December 2022, where Malaysia co-sponsored and voted in favor of the resolution. Well, the advisory opinion is a separate procedure from the application by South Africa to institute proceedings against Israel. He pointed out that while the South African application was filed over alleged violations by Israel of its obligations under the 1948 Genocide Convention against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, the advisory opinion derives from the request by the UNGA. The Defence Minister reiterated Malaysia's long-standing position that the Palestinians deserve their own independent and sovereign state based on the pre-1967 borders. He also assured that Malaysia will also continue efforts to urge the admission of Palestine as a full member of the United Nations. Still ahead in our business segment, Pernas aims to produce 5,000 franchise entrepreneurs by the year 2025. Well, moving on, Perbadanan Nasional Berhad or Pernas aims to produce 5,000 franchise entrepreneurs by 2025, involving more than 90% of micro, small and medium enterprises or MSMEs.
Deputy Entrepreneur Development and Cooperatives Minister Dato' R. Ramanan said the target also involved a total of 1.47 billion ringgit in shareholders' funds.
Pernas telah diwujudkan pada 1969 establishment date. So if we look, Pernas been around for almost 55 years, and Pernas merupakan satu agensi yang sangat penting. Kalau kita nampak antara total franchise financing yang ditawarkan oleh Pernas adalah 441 juta, 441 million, which has been provided since the year 2000. Betul? And it's been providing for more than 2,000 of our customers. Kalau kita tengok entrepreneur, usahawan yang telah diwujudkan adalah lebih daripada 5,000, over 5,000. Peluang pekerjaan yang telah diwujudkan lebih daripada 35,000.
The Deputy Minister also said that Pernas is a very important agency to develop and expand the franchise industry and its entrepreneurs, thereby helping to improve the country's economy. In another development, Dato' Ramanan said the Franchise Act 1998 is now placed under the Entrepreneur Development and Cooperatives Ministry as decided by the Cabinet. Now, previously, the Franchise Act was under the purview of the Ministry of Domestic Trade and Cost of Living. Dato' Ramanan also said that Entrepreneur Development and Cooperatives Minister, Dato' Ewan Benedict, will announce a replacement for the vacant position of Chief Executive Officer of Pernas in a day or two.
Well, Malaysia's total trade in January rebounded with a double-digit expansion by 13.3% to 234.73 billion ringgit year-on-year after registering the 10th consecutive month of contraction. So according to the Investment, Trade and Industry Ministry, exports edged up by 8.7% to 122.43 billion ringgit and imports rose by 18.8% to 112.3 billion ringgit. Meanwhile, the trade surplus amounted to 10.12 billion ringgit and marked the 45th consecutive month of trade surplus since May 2020. Now, MITI said the export growth was boosted by higher shipments of petroleum products, machinery, equipment and parts, iron and steel products, as well as manufacturers of metal. Now, it said exports to major trading partners, namely ASEAN, the United States, the European Union and Japan also recorded expansion. Compared to December last year, trade, exports and imports increased by 4.3%, 3.4% and 5.3% respectively, while trade surplus contracted by 13.8%. In January this year, MITI said trade with ASEAN accounted for 27.6% of Malaysia's total trade, registering a double-digit growth of 17.4% year-on-year to 64.87 billion ringgit. So exports to major markets in ASEAN that recorded increases were Vietnam due to higher exports of electrical and electronics products, Indonesia and the Philippines buoyed by strong exports of petroleum products, respectively. Well, Bank Negara Malaysia, meanwhile, believes that the current level of the ringgit does not reflect the positive prospects of the Malaysian economy going forward. So its governor, Dato' Abdul Rashid Ghaffur, said the recent performance of the ringgit, similar to other regional currencies, has been influenced by external factors. Well, the governor said some of these factors include market adjustments to changing U.S. interest rates expectations, geopolitical concerns and uncertainty surrounding China's economic prospects. He stressed that growth this year will be driven by the improvement in external demand and strong domestic spending, and the latest IMF forecast is for global trade to improve from 0.4% in 2023 to 3.3% this year. Dato' Abdul Rashid said the tourism sector had recovered strongly, with tourist arrivals in 2024 expected to exceed the pre-pandemic levels of 26 million, while investment momentum has picked up with the implementation of approved projects, both in the private and public sectors. Well, he added that, reflecting on these positive developments and the government's commitment to implement structural reforms and the expected lowering of interest rates in advanced economies, most analysts are forecasting for the ringgit to appreciate this year. Investment, Trade and Industry, or MITI Minister Tengku Dato' Sri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz has encouraged electric vehicles or EV automakers with Malaysian facilities to consider making Malaysia their hubs to supply and service the fast-growing EV market in ASEAN. Well, it said this is because the EV market in ASEAN is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of about 33%, from around $500 million in 2021 to $2.7 billion by 2027.
The minister said Malaysia has many positive factors that make its investment landscape highly conducive to supporting multinationals' regional hub ambitions.
So apart from our strategic location, the strong command of English language, good infrastructure and rule of law, as you know, we also have a highly established electrical and electronics E&E industry, which has been reliably feeding into other industry, including aerospace, renewable energy and EVs.
Commercially, the automotive industry registered a strong performance last year, achieving total industry volume, or TIV, close to 800,000 units, while the adoption of electrified vehicles also increased from 2.77% of TIV in 2022 to 4.12% in 2023. In preparing for the zero-emission vehicle transition, through the National Automotive Policy, Tengku Dato' Sri Zafrul said MITI is targeting to empower local automotive industry players players through various investment incentives for the assembly or manufacture of hybrid and EVs.
Well, Malaysia's new vehicle sales soared 31% to 65,499 units in January this year due to higher passenger vehicle sales. So in a statement today, the Malaysian Automotive Association, or MAA, said the total industry volume for January was 16% lower than December last year's 78,398 units. Now, the higher sales in December is attributed to companies ramping up delivery of vehicles to fulfill backlog orders, especially for companies with financial year ending December 2023 and also year-end bargains. Now, during the month, a total of 59,394 passenger vehicles were sold, while commercial vehicles amounted to 6,105 units. While a total of 76,077 vehicles were produced in January, compared with 58,527 units in the same month last year. Passenger vehicle production stood at 71,666 units, while commercial vehicle production amounted to 4,411 units. Well, on the outlook for February, MAA expects sales to be lower than last month on the back of a shorter working month due to the Chinese New Year holidays. Maybank Investment Bank Berhad opined that it is unlikely that the Malaysian aviation industry will experience overcapacity this year, a la 2019, as it views Boeing's woes from halfway across the world will limit the fleet growth of domestic carriers. So the investment bank said this scenario may preclude Malaysia Airports Holdings Berhad's, or MAHB's, domestic passenger traffic from recovering to pre-COVID levels. Nevertheless, it said this will help airlines like Capital A Berhad and Asia X Berhad maintain a floor on fares. Now, the Boeing 737 MAX, especially the Boeing 737 MAX 8 variant, was gaining popularity in Malaysia. Now, Maybank Investment Bank highlighted that Batik Air Malaysia operates 16 Boeing 737 MAX 8s and expects to take delivery of one more next month. Malaysia Airlines operates 3 Boeing 737 MAX 8s out of a planned 25, with an option to lease another 25. And following the Alaska Airlines incident, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration ordered Boeing to limit the monthly production of Boeing 737 MAX to 38. However, industry observers estimate that Boeing is producing only 20 Boeing 737 MAX 8s a month due to increased oversight. As such, the delivery of Boeing 737 MAX 8s to Malaysia Airlines and Batik Air Malaysia will likely be delayed. Aircraft manufacturer Airbus forecasts demand for around 400 wide-body freighters in the Asia-Pacific region over the next 20 years as the region continues to demonstrate robust economic growth and dynamic trade activities. Now, Airbus head of freighter marketing, Crawford Hamilton, said this represents more than 25% of global demand for 1,490 wide-body freight aircraft in the above 40-ton segment. While speaking at the Airbus Freighter Market Update at the Singapore Airshow 2024, he noted that the company is well placed to meet a strong share of this demand with the all-new A350F that optimizes for ease of loading and operation on cargo. Hamilton said Airbus is geared up to have the first flight ready by the end of 2025, and the first delivery is set to kick in 2026. And he also said that the latest generation A350 family had won over 1,200 orders from 57 customers worldwide, and the mid-size category A330 Neo family continues to gain momentum with nearly 300 firm orders from 28 customers. The new model will bring a reduction in fuel consumption and carbon emissions of up to 40% and is the first freighter offered today that will meet International Civil Aviation Organization's enhanced carbon dioxide emission standards in 2027. Well, CelcomDigi Berhad's net profit jumped to 435.11 million ringgit in the fourth quarter last year against 127.36 million ringgit in the same period a year earlier. So in a filing with Bursa Malaysia, the telecommunications service provider attributed its high earnings mainly to lower depreciation following the reduction of the fair value of net assets in the final assessment of its purchase price allocation exercise during the quarter. Now, meanwhile, revenue for the quarter increased to 3.27 billion ringgit from 2.18 billion ringgit previously, and this is driven by increased device sales and service revenue. Now, for the full year of 2023, CelcomDigi's net profit jumped to 1.55 billion ringgit as revenue surged to 12.68 billion ringgit, mainly driven by higher device sales and higher service revenue. So on the outlook for 2024, CelcomDigi said it would remain steadfast in expediting the network integration and modernization initiatives. Barring unforeseen circumstances and the uncertain impact from 5G dual network implementation, CelcomDigi expected its service revenue to record a low single-digit increase with CAPEX to total revenue ratio of 15% to 18%. CelcomDigi declared a fourth interim dividend of 3.5 cents per share in line with its progressive dividend commitment to shareholders. The Real Estate and Housing Developers Association, or REHDA, has called on lawyers and loan officers to play their part by reporting any dubious housing projects to authorities, particularly those built under the pretense of self-dwelling purposes. So in a statement released today, REHDA President Dato' N.K. Tong said these housing projects more often than not offered by individuals masking as developers in the rural and suburban areas, as well as in pocket developments where the scale of the project is small and may go undetected. So these individuals masking as developers are also operating without any advertising permit and developer's license. Thus, tracking them is understandably hard. However, he said it must be noted that these projects would not have progressed and eventually abandoned without the complicity of errant lawyers and loan officers. So now the statement was issued in response to a media report quoting PDRM's Commercial Crime Investigation Department Director, Dato' Sri Ramli Muhammad Yusuf, as saying that a total of 88 criminal breach of trust cases committed by lawyers were recorded, resulting in 88.3 million ringgit in losses between 2021 and last year. REHDA Malaysia is keen to engage and work with the Housing and Local Government Ministry as well as relevant state authorities and the police to curb illegal housing projects that could lead to further abandonment. Well, China has announced its biggest ever reduction in the benchmark mortgage rate as authorities sought to prop up the struggling property market and broader economy. Now, the 5-year loan prime rate LPR was lowered by 25 basis points to 3.95% from 4.20% previously, while the 1-year LPR was left unchanged at 3.45%. The 25 basis point cut to the 5-year loan prime rate was the largest since the reference rate was introduced in 2019 and far more than analysts had expected. Most new and outstanding loans in China are based on the 1-year LPR, while the 5-year rate influences the pricing of mortgages. Now, while the new mortgage reference rate comes into effect immediately, existing mortgage holders will not benefit from any reduction in loan repayments until next year, as mortgage rate repricing is on a yearly basis. Beijing has stepped up efforts to rescue the ailing property sector, but the measures have come in fits and starts, weighing heavily on a sector that drives a quarter of the economy and on the stock market. Looks like more easing could be coming. So recent deposit rate cuts and the reduction to bank reserves are giving commercial banks space to reduce borrowing costs to support the economy. The German economy, meanwhile, may fall into recession in the first quarter of this year as headwinds persist. Now, while confirming that economic output had contracted by a seasonally adjusted 0.3% in the last quarter of last year, the German central bank, Bundesbank, forecasts that it will decline again in the first quarter. Like in its February monthly report released recently, the central bank says that the weakness of the economy will continue due to low order intake, dampened investment, and unfavorable weather conditions. However, in defiance of the weaknesses of the economy, the labor market in Germany remains robust as the fourth quarter of last year saw an increase of 28,000 people in employment. The report also noted that there are no signs that the weak economy will cause the labor market to worsen significantly. Inflation fell to 3.1% in January from 3.8% in December, and the central bank expects the rate to continue falling in the coming months. Lower inflation, the robust labor market, and strong wage growth supported private consumption. The report further noted that there is still no evidence of a recession in the sense of a persistent, broad-based and distinct drop in economic output, and no such recession is expected either. Well, U.S. consumer bank Capital One plans to acquire U.S. credit card issuer Discover Financial Services in an all-stock transaction valued at $35.3 billion to create a global payments giant. Now, the deal is expected to receive intense antitrust scrutiny, would also form the sixth largest U.S. bank by assets and a U.S. credit card behemoth that would compete with rivals like JP Morgan Chase and Citigroup. So while Discover has a network that spans 200 countries and territories, it is still much smaller than rivals Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. So Discover shareholders will receive 1.0192 Capital One share for each Discover share, representing a 26.6% premium over Discover's closing price on Friday. Now, if concluded, Warren Buffett-backed Capital One shareholders will own 60% of the combined company, while Discover shareholders will own the rest. The company said they expect to achieve $2.7 billion in pre-tax synergies that would include cost-cutting and network savings. Well, South Korean hospitals turned away some patients and delayed surgeries as hundreds of trainee doctors stopped working in a protest against medical training reforms. And we're going foreign. Now, almost 6,500 doctors submitted their resignations, nearly half the junior workforce, with 1,600 walking off the job. Second Vice Health Minister Park Min-soo said the walkouts had already resulted in cancellations of surgeries and disruptions in medical services. However, South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol said the government will not back down over the necessary reforms, which he described as an essential measure to prepare for caring for the country's fast aging population. Now, the training reforms call for a 65% increase in the number of students admitted to medical schools, which is an additional 2,000 people a year starting from 2025. And he said this increase is far short of the necessary numbers to prepare the future of the nation, adding that Seoul has been trying to increase medical school enrollments for 30 years to no avail. So doctors, meanwhile, have voiced fierce opposition to the government's plan, claiming it would hurt the quality of service. Well, time is not on our side tonight, so that concludes this evening's Malaysia Tonight. In our top story, sustainable humane economy vision needs collaborative efforts. So do tune into World Today, coming up tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. on TV2. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Mohammed Amin Carlos. Thanks for watching.